Well, we're very honored tonight also to have with us Crystal Lameman, who is a Beaver Lake Cree Nation activist. We've seen her at many different rallies and events in Alberta as she works tirelessly for environmental integrity and for the health of Mother Earth. So welcome to Crystal.
I didn't realize I was up next. I said, oh wait, I didn't put any lipstick on. Danse and hello. First off, I want to acknowledge the Treaty 7 territory we stand on and the territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy. Is this the live stream camera? Also, I want to give a shout out to my beautiful babies and my family watching on live stream. Kasagi, Thin, I love you. When we go about things in a good way, with good intentions, our Creator will never leave us vulnerable. Things don't happen by chance. Everything happens for a reason. And because we embark on this challenge with love and light in our hearts, we are exactly where we are meant to be. We are warriors, Mother Earth's soldiers. Lakota chief and holy man Sitting Bull said this: "For us, warriors are not what you think of as warriors. The warrior is not someone who fights, because no one has the right to take another's life. The warrior for us is one who sacrifices himself for the good of others. His task is to take care of the elderly, the defenseless, those who cannot provide for themselves, and above all, the children, the future of humanity." And that came from The Militarization of Indian Country by Winona LaDuke. Mother Earth's soldiers are warriors because we believe in a better world, a better human existence, a better future for the generations to come, and we believe in the life-giving abilities of our one true mother. Prime Minister Stephen Harper made a promise to First Nations leaders, a promise of transparency, whilst keeping the lines of communication open, and that would be based on mutual respect, friendship, and support. Those are his words. I think every person in this room, First Nations or not, I think they have a little something to say about that. The importance of raising the platform on the rights of Indigenous peoples is that we currently have the constitutional power to stop these extreme extractive industries from further raping and pillaging our lands. The First Nations people of Canada collectively have the constitutional power to stop these developments. And if you're a Canadian citizen, you too are treaty holders of this land. These treaties 1 to 11 that were signed across Canada involve you. And it's also your responsibility to stand up and say, enough is enough, no more. We will no longer stand here and be the vessels of disaster. The federal and provincial governments collaboratively have dismantled meaningful review and regulation of tar sands operations, which contribute to the cumulative impacts of this industry as a whole. Currently, tar sands, as an extreme energy, is the largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. And from this greed, we have experienced the Conservative government passing Bill C-38, which gutted our environmental laws. Bill C-45, a First Nations land grab, and the complete ignorance that 80% of the world's fresh water is in Canada. There is only 1% of fresh water in the world. Who gave this government the right to destroy our fresh water system, and with barely a nod to the question of what are we going to drink when the disaster strikes? Because it will. And when it does, it's not going to know race, color, or creed. When an industry is using 1.7 billion barrels of that fresh water per day, there will come an end. Now let's back up to December 2012. We had 2.5 million protected lakes and rivers. And one day after the passing of Bill C-45, we were left with 97 protected lakes and 62 protected rivers, which then was followed by the Alberta Provincial Bill S8, which was the privatization of our water, taking the milk of our mother and turning it into a commodity. A government's attempt at trying to sell what was never theirs in the first place. Who can afford this? The poor First Nations people, born into third world living conditions in a first world country? The poor farmer who relies on his crops to feed his family? The 99%? No. Industry. Industry is who can afford it, and this government made sure of that. Then this government pulled out of the Kyoto Protocol and signed FIPA. Yet more behind-the-scenes, closed-door decisions, deliberately ignoring the democratic process of involving the citizen members of this nation we call Canada. So here we sit, a government refusing to accept responsibility and hiding from accountability and transparency. This is no longer an Indian problem. If you breathe air and you drink water, this is about you. We are economic hostages in our own country. When do we stand up and break free from this lockup? Why do we sit in fear? Fearmongers. They are everywhere. One of them's giving a speech right now over there, selling their wares. But I have a message for them. Pedal away. Sell your fear. Because you're the people I'm going to ask later. Can you drink your oil? Can you eat your money? We are involved in a direct exploitation of our natural resources, from one end of this country to another. All over this, what we call Turtle Island, and on a global level, i.e., the Northern Gateway and Kinder Morgan pipelines in BC, the tar sands, natural gas, and coal extraction in Alberta, the uranium, potash, and crude oil extraction in Saskatchewan, the destruction of treaty lands in Manitoba for hydraulic power generation, the mining of diamonds in Attawapiskat and Enbridge's Line 9 in Aamjiwnaang, Ontario, also the mining of diamonds in the Northwest Territories, and the fracking of natural gas in Elsipogtog.
Boo! Shame!
These are but a very few selection of examples of the exploitation, and from this, as the First Nations people of this country, we also must face environmental racism. A government looking beyond the front lines, communities impacted by these decisions. And I'm here to remind you, Prime Minister Harper, that we're human too. We exist, we are here, and we are not going anywhere. Industry talks so highly of its reclamation sites, the sites that house poisoned wildlife, i.e. the buffalo that were placed on a reclamation site near a tailings pond. Industry came along and with their lying words said, here, look what we're doing. How great we are, see? See these beautiful buffalo roaming free in their natural habitat? We're so awesome that we're even going to sacrifice some of our buffalo and we're going to feed it to the local elders. The elders, who know more than we'll ever know as young people, who figured out this disaster long before we knew it was such. They took the meat, and instead of consuming it, they got it tested. And the result was catastrophic. Chemicals so dangerous and so high in the meat content that it was deemed unfit for human consumption. Thank you. Thanks. Until industry can promise me that they have replaced every single vegetation that was natural to that area and in its purest form, an ecosystem returned as if it had never been touched, only then will I stop talking about the lies they fill us with in their idea of reclamation. Reclamation for me is not poisoned life. Reclamation for me is standing here with the 99%, planting the seeds of knowledge, love, and a better world, a world that we agree on collectively. It is time. Time to say we will no longer allow the Canadian government to covet our air and our water. These basic human rights do not belong to them. They cannot be owned because they do not belong to us. They belong to our one true mother. And it's a gift she has bestowed on us as living beings. And when she shakes us from her like fleas, she will go on living, whilst we fall into the ashes of a climate war we lost. We must stand together and say no. No more. We will no longer allow this government to play environmental roulette with our lives. Divide and conquer no more. Look around you. Look to your left, to your right, in front of you, behind you. Aye. Thank you, Prime Minister Harper, for bringing together every piece to a perfect solidarity puzzle. Environmental rights and the rights of Mother Earth, the rights of Canadians, the rights of workers, opening a new chapter and changing an historically oppressive past, because the third piece to this puzzle is the First Nations people. The Conservative government made history today. I come here with an invitation to you all to stand together. On November 16th, hundreds of communities across Canada will come together to defend our communities against climate change and these exploitive industries. I invite you as a whole, especially you Calgarians, to come together and plan an event. Help form the unbreakable wall of opposition to this government's reckless agenda of fossil fuel exploitation and runaway climate change. Stand with frontline communities and say enough is enough. No rally is too small to participate in this day of action, as you will be standing with thousands of people of these lands. And for more information on that day of action and to register, you can go to defendourclimate.ca. Yet another bill was unveiled by the Harper government via Aboriginal Affairs Minister Bernard Valcourt, the First Nations Education Act, an act that speaks of giving the Indian control of Indian education a facelift. We are left arms in the air. Honest to God, I'm going to be done in like a minute. Sorry, I don't want the hook to come out. We are left arms in the air, reading it in the time of utter distress. It does not address the 2% a year on funding for Aboriginal education since 2006. It talks of seizure of our schools that don't meet Ottawa's standards. Federally appointed employees to come into the schools and place their standards upon us, and if we don't meet their standards, which we won't, will result in Ottawa appointing an agent, and further to that, the seizure of our schools.
Shame.
Yet, it does not address the $2,000 to $3,000 per student funding gap between on and off reserve schools, with Valcourt yelling in the background that what the government will not do is throw more money at a known system of education that proves to be failing too many First Nation students across the country. Well, you think? When amongst many of the underfunding issues our schools face, a third lack access to clean drinking water. And somehow the foundation of all our issues return to water, resource extraction, and strong-arming amongst the systemic issues that result in the many missing and murdered Aboriginal women, the residential school system, the cyclical abuses the systems forced upon us, and so many other trials and tribulations we face. What else can we do? How else, after these omnibus bills, do we get in the way of the government's agenda? They think they control the House of Commons. They would like to control the Senate, though. As of late, it seems to be coming back and biting them. With that, they do not completely control the courts. The community I come from, the Beaver Lake Cree Nation, launched a lawsuit against the governments of Canada and Alberta in May of 2008, where at that time we cited over 17,000 treaty rights violations and infringements. But to date, we are at over 19,000 treaty violations in our traditional hunting territory. This has and will continue to be an uphill battle. The government is going to throw everything it can in our way, as it has been. They can outspend us with your tax dollars at that. They can hope to appoint more conservatives to the Supreme Court, but for now, they cannot stop this lawsuit from moving forward. But we cannot do this alone. As Susan Smitten, Executive Director of Raven Trust, says, it's not fair to rely on the poorest people in our nation to stand alone and be the voice of reason in this effort. They have the power of their treaties to protect the planet, and we have the power of a nation to support them. I just encourage people to get behind the line they've figuratively and literally drawn in the tar sand. We are looking for your support on this lawsuit, whether it's organizing a fundraiser in your community or going online and donating to our latest project. Every effort counts. Tonight we have launched a crowdfunding effort via a collaborative effort with the beautiful folks over at Shit Harper Did. My aunt's gonna be like, why did you say that? So please visit thetarsandstrial.ca, thetarsandstrial.ca. Check out the video that's linked to that. Visit raventrust.ca. Check out our information table in the foyer. And please tweet and Facebook the heck out of thetarsandstrial.ca. Also, I Don't Know More. Their 1-year anniversary is coming up November 10th. You know, take time to reflect on this 1 year. You know, do something, plan something, be a part of it. This is your movement too. This is an everybody's movement. I'm thankful and grateful.